Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
A very distraught senior citizen phoned her doctor's office, and she said, "Is it true?" She wanted to know that the medication you prescribed has to be taken for the rest of my life. "Yes, I'm afraid so," the doctor told her. There was a moment of silence before the senior lady replied, "I'm wondering then, just how serious is my condition, because this prescription is marked no refills." Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. On a Wednesday, good morning, good morning. Thank you very much, Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and along with some of our great advertisers, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland and Burley, along with Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Your garbage is gone. Call them 734-6969. Let's talk now to our friendly little brunette. Good morning. How are you, Gina?
I am doing well on this fine Wednesday.
Hot yesterday.
Oh, boy, howdy. Every time I walked outside, it was like I was getting hit with a brick wall. It was just so humid.
Well, that's what I was going to say, too. The humidity factor in southern Idaho is not very high, but yesterday at about 2 o'clock, 2:30, it just kind of hit me right between the eyes.
Well, every time I walked outside, it was like literally walking into a brick wall. Kind of like when you're living in the South and you've got all that humidity in the air. It was like, wow, when did southern Idaho move to Tennessee?
Yeah, or Arkansas or southwest Missouri, whatever the case might be. Man, I'll tell you what, it was a little warm. But then on the other hand, last night after about 7 o'clock, it was a beautiful night.
It was perfect for just sitting outside and just enjoying the weather.
It was. Do we have a pledger this morning?
Me, you, or Michael?
I still like the way you do it. It breaks up the voices. Go ahead. Do it again. Thanks.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very well done. Right now, let's go to the weather, and Kyle and Whitney Cheney of Declo have a new business in Burley. Maybe you've heard it. You should, because they're serving you. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door. Call them, 678-6945. Kyle and Whitney would love to hear from you. You better believe it, where your home design needs are aisles apart, not miles apart, and they guarantee they can meet or beat any price on flooring. Free in-house consultation. These people really want to help you. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. And now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Zeb Bell, you're talking about humidity. Where's the humidity coming from? You know?
The sun drawing up moisture from the lakes, rivers, etc.
Oh, you got half right.
Okay.
Morning, everybody. I've talked about this every year on the KMVT. I've got 2 videos on it on my YouTube channel. And I'll explain it to you again because it's about as normal as you're going to get. What you're going through is what is known as called the North American monsoon. Monsoon does not mean rain. The definition of monsoon is a seasonal shift in winds. And what you're getting right now is that seasonal shift of all that juice coming from the Pacific Ocean through Phoenix, where they're getting nailed like crazy, and you're getting effects of it. Now, what is the end result of me trying to explain all this weather stuff to you, and I only got 30 seconds left? Well, bottom line is you got thunderstorms in the forecast starting tonight, going into tomorrow, and it's going to taper off tomorrow night. The North American monsoon runs from July through September, so the next time you hear Zeb and Dina talk about how humid it is, now you know where it's coming from. 96 for the high today, 97 for the high tomorrow. Enjoy the weather, Philly. What do you got?
There you go. I like that. Michael explains things in very simple terminology. Very well done. MichaelRogersWeather.com, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door. Thank you very much, Michael Rogers Weather. Oh, let's see. What is tonight? Wednesday night, and that means the big Z doesn't stand for Zorro. It stands for Zanino. Dave Zanino is going to be putting on another roping at the Jerome County Fairgrounds, and they're going to sign up at 6:30, rope at 7, 3 for 20 draw pot, enter up to 6 times. Be there. Big deal tonight, Jerome County Fairgrounds. Oh, and I'll give you another fairgrounds story. This is down in Elko, Nevada at the Elko County Fairgrounds. It's going to be the Silver State Stampede this weekend. And a little bit later on this morning, we're going to be talking to Elkie Mariluch. He's going to give us a highlight of what's happening down there this weekend. Thursday night, the annual kickoff party and Western Trade Show, Tri-Tip dinner. Oh, don't miss it. And then Friday and Saturday, don't forget PRCA rodeo action and the Ring of Fear. Oh, my goodness, it's fun times at Nevada's oldest rodeo, the Silver State Stampede in Elko, Nevada at the Elko County Fairgrounds. A note of seriousness here this morning, and I mean this. Very sad this morning to hear that Governor John Evans passed away at the age of 89 years. And I want to just say that I had an opportunity in my life to know John and literally be friends with him. He was always very nice to me, very cordial, and quite frankly, very, very helpful to me in my business endeavors. And I just want to say that I'm going to miss him, and I had all the respect in the world for him. Governor John Evans passing away at 89 years of age, but he had a fruitful and absolutely event-filled life, and I wish his family the condolences, but also fond memories of a very, very important Idahoan, and I just absolutely will miss that man, Governor John Evans. Call is welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call if you would, please, and we'll tell you about Barry Equipment and Rental. 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 locations serving you around the area. Twin Falls, Addison Avenue West, Jerome, South Lincoln, and Burley, 159 West Highway 30. They got all the Coyote tractors. I'm telling you what, they've got everything over there. They've got all the Bobcat equipment. They've got the tillers and the mowers and the lawn and garden stuff. They've got it all for you. You better get it on over there. Honda, Steel, Tanaka, Bobcat Walker. They've got them all. Doosan loaders. What are you waiting for? Stop in today. Talk to Eli, Nick, the whole crew serving you at Barry Equipment and Rental in Twin Falls, Jerome, and the new location, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear from you. $3.7 billion. For what? What will the money do? To curb the illegals from coming into this country? Absolutely nothing. Positively nothing. All it's going to do is create, literally, more illegals coming in. $3.7 billion, and I did a little research on this last night, and I called some folks back in Washington, D.C. Basically, it's nothing more than just building more containment centers, and that's not going to stop anything. By building more detention centers, we're just going to have more illegals. And later on this half hour, we're expecting a call from United States Senator Mike Crapo. Expecting a call. And this is the bone of contention I'm going to have with him. I have a very short time with him this morning, so therefore about 10 minutes, 12 minutes, I'm going to stay on the line with him and not open it up for all kinds of other phone calls. I apologize. That's the way it has to be. I have time constraints, and he does too. But why are we wasting this kind of money with an administration that admittedly, from the top down, Obama in the Oval Office, all the way through Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, etc., they don't want borders anymore. They just want an open type situation from North America clear to South America. Pelosi came out and said that. And so has other people like Democratic strategist Kirsten Powers. This woman really scares me. I hope that she doesn't have very much influence. No borders. Oh, we should all go and come as we please. Well, then I'm going to stop right there and say, okay, let's all stop paying our taxes. Let's all stop paying our taxes if we're not going to have a country, if we're not going to have borders, and we're not going to have a systematic government and controls. Why should we pay our taxes and let others get a free boat ride? So this idiocy and incompetency perpetrated by the Democratic Party and the liberal loons has got to stop. It's got to stop. Your calls, please. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And there was a gentleman that called me on my phone yesterday after the program, and he said, man, right after the program, I turned on my air conditioner, and it's just like you said it was, dirty air filter, and I was warm, I was getting grouchy, so I headed to Ramsey's. And he said, I got my new air filter. So I hope he's comfortable this morning. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley with the new clean air filters for your air conditioning unit so you stay cool. Absolutely. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Call ahead. They'll have your electrical order waiting for you at 678-0459. Also, a shout out to our friends over at Valley White Home and Ranch. Hello, Steve. Hello, Mandy. Hello, everybody. I know the door. They had to oil the door. It was so busy over there yesterday. And they're getting ready for fair time, and all the 4-H'ers are coming in, and they need all their supplies. They need all their equipment. They need all their feed, and they need all their boots and their Western clothing and their hats. It's all there. It's all there at Valley White Home and Ranch. And they're waiting to serve you at 910 South Oneida in Rupert. And don't forget, too, they got all your fishing supplies. One of these days this summer, before summer's over, yours truly is going to get a license and go fishing. I'm telling you, I got to get away from the rat race. The rats are winning. Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Oh, come on, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, a sign of the times and a gesture, I think, towards futility and going against any moral standards whatsoever. I had a report, and a person that works with me and for me back on the East Coast said, Indiana University is now replacing the signs on the front of their bathrooms. And they're going to have 3 logos available on the door. Yeah, you're way ahead of me, I can tell. 3 logos are going to be on the door. Male, female, and then what they designed is a half male and half female for the transgender. I gotta get Gina in on this. I mean, come on, Gina, this is absolutely ludicrous. Is it not? She's gone. I figured as much. All right, well, we'll just ask you, the caller, to give us a jingle at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We've sunk to another all-time low in this country. Now that they have to put 3 different logos on the door. Male, female, and transgender. absolutely pathetic. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Hello, Tony.
These politicians really make me laugh. The problems they're creating for us, like Kirsten Powers, which I saw last night, and Nancy Baloney, they don't have to live in the mess they're creating for us. And that's the big problem that I have with all these politicians.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen here, but this movement right now, Tony, is stronger than ever. If you look at some of the principles involved, Nancy Pelosi and Obama and some of his staff are coming out making innuendos about an open border type thing where people can go and come and visit and stay. I mean, they're just absolutely destroying the sovereignty of this nation.
Well, what's happening down at the border with all these men, women, children, MS-13s coming across the border, the terrorists and the rest of them, these people, to me, are just a shock troop for what's coming, what we have in store for us.
Well, you know, I'll just come right out and say it, and I think
we're going to stop losing bridges and factories and everything.
I agree. I'll just come right out and mention this to you and get your response quickly. I just think that now's the time, right now, this day, this hour, for Obama to say, National Guard, get to the border. That's it. Close the border. Close the border. No more lip service. No more taking time to go to fundraisers. No more taking time to visit with illegals in the Oval Office and give them special awards. Close the borders.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen, because if the National Guard goes down there, they can't use the bayonets. They'll have empty clips in their rifles, and the invaders will just walk right by them.
You know, my concern is what you mentioned a few moments ago. Right now, our Border Patrol and our borders in general are just nothing but a joke. And the Border Patrol has turned into a nanny state, if you will, of changing diapers and feeding little children and taking kids by the hand and going to the bathroom. It's absolutely pathetic. And the bad guys, those that wish us ill, are walking basically across the borders just whistling, having a great day.
Well, I think the Border Patrol is overwhelmed, and these guys don't like what's going on, but there's politics in the way.
I agree. Tony, always good to hear from you. God bless you and Mary. Thank you so much. You bet. Thank you. Denny's Restaurant. Oh, my. Good food, good eating at Denny's Restaurant. 611 Overland and Burley. Oh, you can get somebody a gift card. Now, what a super, super nice gift. And one that can be appreciated. You know, you walk up to somebody that's a dear friend or a relative and you say, here, how you doing? Congratulations for being such a nice person. Here's a gift card to go and enjoy a great meal at Denny's Restaurant. Yep, 611 Overland and Burley. Thomas and the rest of the crew, Terry, they're all just absolutely doing a wonderful job of service, and the menu is outstanding. You're going to love it. The home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see those great folks today. Caller, I know you're there. Just hang with me just a minute. I want to remind everybody, too, about Snyder's Surplus. What nice people are over at Snyder's Surplus. Leland and Tammy, the entire crew, and believe me, I've got a lot of respect for them. It's not just a military surplus store. They've got everything. You got to stop in and see all the new merchandise. New store, brand new store, friendly service. It's all there at 112 South, 200 west of Rupert. And the store hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, 9 to 1 on Saturdays. Snyder's Surplus. You stop over and see them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. You know, Pelosi said that she wished she could bring them all into her place. I think they ought to just bus them and take them right over to the Pelosi's. They're good at climbing fences, so I'm sure she's got a security fence. They'd be able to scale out in no time at all. So, you know, that's what they really should do, is just send them all to Pelosi or any of these liberals that think this is such a humanitarian thing to do. And it's really sad. This is total human trafficking for a political purpose, and it just, if people aren't outraged by this, they'll never be outraged, because the potential for diseases coming into all of our communities. I just talked to a friend in Denver, and they've already brought 500 of these health-inspected people, kids and young adults and so forth. But the interesting thing about it, they're all dressed in designer clothes and got nice sneakers on and so forth. So somebody's paying the way for that. So that, I think, we need to get our Congress people to step up to the plate instead of just going along to get along.
Well, here's the deal, Adrian, and I got to leave in a minute and do another commercial because Mike Crapo is going to be on the air. You touched on a lot of things that are very, very bona fide objects of contention against what's going on. But the number one thing is the $3.7 billion is not going to be used for anything but actually enhancing more illegal aliens.
Well, yeah, it's just a total joke. It really is. And, of course, they're trying to tie fire suppression into the whole thing, which if the Forest Service had the ability or took the ability to cut out the dead timber, we wouldn't have such catastrophic fires.
You got it, Adrian. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Excellent points. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you bet. Have a good night.
Thank you. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, Oakley Pioneer Days. Oh, my goodness sakes, they're going to have a ripping good time at Oakley Pioneer Days this year. And I suggest you make plans for next week to stop over and see all the activities and partake of all the fun. I don't know how you're ever going to take it all in. I mean, they've got something going on for everybody in the family. And you better stop over next week. Now, I know on Tuesday and Wednesday, they're going to be having that great big four-cylinder car race, the 6th annual Bump and Rub, and it got so popular and so big they're going to have it on 2 days. That's right. Then the Gymkhana on Thursday, July 17th, rodeo on Friday and Saturday, the 18th and 19th, and then, of course, the great big Pioneer Day Parade on Saturday. Holy cow, chuckwagon breakfast, volleyball, basketball tournaments, all of this under the theme of a flood of blessings at Oakley Pioneer Days in Oakley, July 15th through the 19th. Don't you miss it. I think what we'll do, Gina, is go ahead with our Capitol Press segment at about a minute or so early, and we'll be ready for the Senator. Thank you very much.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capitol Press, the West Ag Weekly.
Mexico has restored access to fresh U.S. potato shipments within 26 kilometers of its border with the U.S. Officials with the USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service confirmed Tuesday. APHIS and Mexico's Secretariat of Agriculture, Livestock, Rural Development, Fisheries, and Food reached an agreement on Monday. APHIS began issuing photosanitary certificates to export within the 26-kilometer zone on Monday, and it expected the first shipment to cross the border Tuesday night or early Wednesday. U.S. fresh bud imports had been limited to 26 kilometers until another patch opened them through Mexico last month. Mexican growers, however, sued and a judge blocked all imports. This is Hannah Browse.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capitol Press, and CapitolPress.com.
Oh, thank you very much. And don't forget, sugar beet growers, may I have your attention? Introducing Preaxor from BASF. That's right. Preaxor, the newest form of chemistry for sugar beets to fight disease and potentially increase yield and sugar content of your sugar beets. Preaxor contains headline and a new compound, xemium, that also provides excellent control of powdery mildew. As I said with the application of BASF's Preaxor, 45 to 60 days prior to harvest, you have the potential of higher yields and more sugar content in your sugar beets. Contact your local Ag Chem supplier today or call Ron Ellis at BASF 431-6776 or Tim Perry at 844-0682. BASF's Preaxor for your better sugar beets. Let's check with Gina and see if we have our senator on the line.
Nope.
Oh, hey, I asked you a question a minute ago. I got another one for you. Are you really ready to hear about a NRB? And an NRB stands for not real bright. You want to hear this?
Got him on the line now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have United States Senator Mike Crapo on the air. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing well. Good morning.
Mike, you know what I'm going to talk about. I bet you a steak dinner you'd be right if you guessed. I absolutely am livid at this president, this administration, and his cohorts in crime. And this president wants $3.7 billion of your and my and the rest of the taxpayer money, and that money is not going to do a thing. You tell me I'm wrong. It's not going to do a thing to stop illegal aliens. The money's going to go to Homeland Security. It's going to go to build more containment areas. It's going to do more for administration. It's a waste of our taxpayer dollars. Am I right or wrong?
I believe you are right. The president says that he will use the money to stop the children and at the border and to legally return them to their home states or their home countries in many cases. But he also says that he's planning on using it, as you said, for integrating them into the United States. And so he's saying both things. And the bottom line is his track record shows that he's not likely to enforce the law as he should be. And there's one other problem with it, too, and that is you indicated that it's our taxpayer dollars, which is true. It's borrowed taxpayer dollars the way he's proposing it. He's not even proposing to have an offset in the budget to reduce spending somewhere else in the budget.
All right, now I'm going to ask you, Mike, I've known you for a long time, and you've always been a straight shooter with me, but what is your stand? Are you going to advocate as one of our United States senators that no, enough is enough, Mr. President, no more lip service, no more throwing money at the wall, let's get the National Guard down on the border, close our borders, and let's start to make this the sovereign country that it was meant to be?
Well, I believe I've already been advocating most, if not all, of that. But the answer is yes. I'm a little bit concerned about moving too far into the notion of allocating our National Guard on a full-time basis at the borders. But I've supported doing that in the past and helping us to maintain and obtain the security that we need, and I think that in the future we probably will need to have that kind of support as well. You may recall that back under the Bush administration we had the same fight, only the administration was sympathetic. We put together, I think, a pretty strong package in Congress where we did put up a significant amount of money to secure the borders, and we were actually making quite good progress going down that road. Then the presidency changed, and the utilization of those funds for their intended purposes dwindled. Now we have the borders open again, and we're right back to where we were. But short answer to your question is I'm very committed to the fact that we've got to close our borders. We've got to stop refusing to enforce the law and start enforcing a strong border control system.
Mike, this incompetency and illiteracy of the left, with the Nancy Pelosi's and the Kristen Powers and many others that are spokespeople daily on news clips around the United States, are basically saying no borders. Everybody should go and come as they please. So why should I, and why should you, why should my listeners pay taxes to a government that takes money for illegal aliens to benefit them and their comfort, but it hurts me?
Well, you're absolutely right. It is wrong for the government to tax its citizens for those kinds of purposes, and that's one of the big battles that we should have. And you're also right about the fact that there are many who are essentially advocating for an absolutely open border process. And what they're saying in this case is that the proponents have found a way, namely unaccompanied children, to force the issue here in the United States. And that's one of the reasons that we've got to have such a strong response. I joined with dozens of my colleagues in sending the president a letter saying that he's got to enforce our border and enforce our laws. And the president responded, well, I can do that in some areas, but with some countries we don't have the right laws in place with them, and so we have to take their children in. And first of all, I don't believe his interpretation of the law is right. But secondly, if that's the case, we need to fix our laws, not change our position.
Mike, you know as well as I do. You got a family, I've got a family. We take care of our kids, we pay for our kids, we pay for their education, we do everything we can to propel them into the world to be successful on their own. What about other countries? Why do we have to be the benefactors, and why do we have to be held responsible for families that are irresponsible and incompetent, whether it's in Costa Rica, Guatemala, or Mexico? Why am I the responsible person digging into my billfold to take care of their kids?
Well, it's not right. Again, and you shouldn't be. And the president knew when he started down this road where he was headed. I don't know if he knew for sure that it was going to be so big in scope and so explosive, but he knew when he stopped enforcing our laws and started making it clear that the United States would open its arms to those who illegally cross the borders, that would happen. And frankly, this is, I believe, one of the most significant battles, if you will, political battles that we face in America today. Battling back on Obamacare is another one. I mean, the president has a vision of what America should look like that is vastly different than what you and I believe in. And we've got to stand up, and I'm glad to hear you talking so strongly against it.
Oh, no, you will not hear anybody talk stronger than I will. And I'll tell you another thing, Mike, and you know me well enough, and I mean this. If the buses come up here to what they call a funnel state, Idaho being a funnel state on the corridor of Arizona, Utah, and right here to Idaho, if the buses come here and I find out about it, I promise you as my United States Senator that I will organize and participate in stopping the buses and making them turn around. That's how strongly I am about this, and I hope that you'll stand with me.
Well, you know, you're right, and there are citizens of other communities who've already done that, and they've shown that people across this country are willing to stand up and to say to their government, enough is enough. And, you know, this is the kind of nonviolent civil disobedience, if you will, or nonviolent public response that I think changes the way that the government operates. And I think that the president is starting to understand that this is not one of those things where he can just smooth it over with a fancy speech. People all over the country are recognizing that we have a terribly broken system here, and they are also recognizing that it is the responsibility of the president to correct his interpretation and application of our immigration laws and resolve this issue.
Mike, aren't they actually, they being the government, aren't they actually aiding and abetting the broken law of transporting illegals around the country? Shouldn't there be lawsuits against the government because these people are here illegally and they're moving them on airplanes and buses, and the disease factor comes into play with scabies, the different swine flus, even polio scares of these people. We don't know who they are or what they are or what kind of vaccinations. Isn't the government aiding and abetting this thing?
I think they are. Now, you know, they defend against that allegation by saying we are required by the law to treat these children as refugees, and until our law is changed, that's how we are going to proceed. Well, first of all, as I indicated earlier, it does turn out that there are some different laws between the United States and some of the Central American countries that might give the president some kind of a legal angle for what he's saying there. But those who helped, first of all, if that's true, we need to change those laws. Secondly, it's not true with regard to all of these countries. And third, we need to make it very clear in our law that we have borders and that you must enter the United States legally under our rules and procedures, or you are not legally here, and that the president and the administration have the responsibility to enforce that.
You use the term refugees, and I question that terminology because I'm going to go back to the source. I find it hard to believe that somebody in Guatemala or Costa Rica or wherever could put a 5-year-old on a bus and say, have a good trip 1,500 miles north, all by themselves, no paperwork. We don't know who their relatives are. They're coming up here. We're having to feed them. We're having to clothe them. We're having to give them medical attention, transportation, all at your and my expense. Mike, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out we're taking the dirty end of a short stick here.
Well, you're right, and I did use the word refugee, but I didn't say that I agreed with it. That was the president's response I was referring you to. And I think that it's wrong for us to utilize those laws in this way. And what I'm saying is that if the president has some kind of an angle there to justify what he's doing, we need to change those laws so that it's very clear that that's not what they were intended to address.
Okay, now he is in Texas today. He had Valerie Jarrett, one of his people, send a letter to Rick Perry to say we're going to have a meeting. Big deal. He's only approximately 470 some miles away from the border. Why can't the president show humanitarian reform on his part and go to the border and learn exactly what's going on?
Well, we can only speculate as to why he didn't take the opportunity when he was so close to go to the border. I personally believe the reason that he didn't do it was that he didn't want that visual to be put out into the media because he doesn't feel, I've got to assume that he's figuring out that he's not on the right side of this issue, and that he doesn't want to be any more personally or visually associated with it than he can be. That's just my guess. We can only speculate, Zeb, as to why he didn't go there.
All right, now I'm going to ask you this question. With all that he's done in the last 6 years and all that he's tried to step over the Constitution or on the Constitution and step around you folks in Congress, isn't this man qualifying right now for articles of impeachment to be thrown out of office?
Well, you know, we constantly face that question as those who disagree with our presidents, Republican and Democrat, call for their impeachment. I think the step that needs to be taken right now is the one that the House of Representatives is preparing to take, and that is that legal challenges to the president's actions need to be brought to establish the illegality of what he is doing. And so I think that's the next step at this point. I do believe that the president is clearly violating the law, both in terms of not enforcing existing laws and in terms of trying to create new laws just with the stroke of a pen. But we need to have, in my opinion, some legal enforcement and some legal action taken before we go to the rest of the steps to evaluate that question.
All right, another question in regards to the Senate. How do you walk into the chambers of the Senate and look at Harry Reid and give him any respect whatsoever when the man has to be the dumbest man on two legs when he made a statement that he said he was against the 5 white men on the Supreme Court for their decision on the Hobby Lobby case? He forgot Clarence Thomas is black.
Yes, yeah. Listen, the Senate is in such a terrible disarray right now. It's an extreme disappointment. Regardless of how people feel about the politics of one party or the other in America, there's an issue that's even in addition to that, and that is what is happening in the United States Senate under Senator Reid's leadership. Senator Reid will not, will not force his senators in his party to take any kind of votes that could cause them to be exposed in terms of how they think or how they feel to their voters. And as a result, we spend virtually every day in the Senate spinning our wheels and watching him go through maneuvers in order to avoid having to have votes taken on tough issues. We've got the efforts of the EPA to take over the waters of the United States that we are trying to get votes on, and he's, of course, ducking them. We've got issues relating to gun control. They're getting ducked. We've got issues relating to the United Nations and auditing the United Nations. They're getting ducked. Issues relating to Obamacare, both in terms of its entire repeal or in terms of amendments to it that would help pare it back or eliminate the individual mandate. And I could go on and on and on. And he is essentially bringing the Senate to a standstill in order to avoid the conflict over some of the critical issues facing our country today. And I think that is one of the major things that Americans should be most focused on and most outraged by today.
I don't know how much time you have left, Mike, but I just was going to ask you about the EPA. I read a story this morning that just infuriated me, that they want to supersede more of their power and try to garnish people's wages if they deem that they should be fined. Mike, why can't you as a senator and others just basically tell the EPA you don't have the power, you were not fortified by Congress with all your rulings, etc., hit the trail, leave Dodge City, we've had enough?
Well, we have several routes that we are trying to pursue there. First of all, we can, and have actually, to a limited extent, utilize the control over their budget to stop them from spending money on certain items. Second, we can join in and support litigation that will challenge, and some of that has successfully challenged, their abuse of their power. And third, we can bring battles to the floor of the Senate and the House in order to pass legislation that will trim their powers back. And each of those we are pursuing. As I just indicated, Senator Reid is tying himself in knots to try to stop the votes on those issues in the Senate. And this is one of the things that I'm hoping that the American people will focus on.
Absolutely.
We're fighting literally today on one of the bills that's on the floor today. We're fighting over whether he will let us have a vote on the EPA's new assertion of jurisdiction over global warming issues. And at the same time, another vote that we're seeking to have is the EPA's assertion of jurisdiction over waters, of all water in the United States. And the issues continue to grow. But I can assure you, we are pushing every angle we can here. We need to have a good election in November to get a few more votes back here in the U.S. Senate.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed your conversation with me this morning. Thank you very much, United States Senator Mike Crapo. God's blessings to you, and I'll look forward to having you back on again. Thank you so much.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much.
All right, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Some straight answers to some straight questions to the United States Senator Mike Crapo. And from the EPA, this deal with the EPA, I was just sent a notice this morning. And we are going to have coverage on this story. I was so incensed when I heard about it, I called a good friend of mine, Casey Gibbon. And at 10:30 this morning, a lady by the name of Kathy Riesenwitz is going to be on my program talking about the EPA and how they want to fine you and garnish your wages if they deem a fine is necessary. They have turned into nothing more than a brown-shirted Gestapo. That's all they are. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on this morning. Don't forget, it's time for the weather. It's past time for the weather, and the weather brought to you this hour by Burley Glass at 1029 Overland in Burley. Don't forget, summer is here. Update your windows before the cold weather comes back, and don't forget they've got the vinyl windows. I've got windows from Burley Glass. They did a tremendous job of installation on my windows and helping increase the energy efficiency of our home by 2 to 3 times. General Ben and the rest of the crew at Burley Glass. 678-1459. Here right now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hi everybody, Michael Rogers. Your weather, it's still sunny and hot, but as I talked to you yesterday, looks like you got a chance of thunder movers over the weekend. Well, that's kind of moved up a little bit now, and it's in the category of slight chance. Now, if this had been wintertime or the fall or anything else like that, when they would tell me a slight chance of anything, there's a slight chance. This is summertime in the Magic Valley, and your juice, your moisture is coming up from Phoenix, Arizona. 7 times out of 10, you're going to get a thunderstorm starting tonight, going into tomorrow, ending tomorrow night. But they're calling right now for a slight chance of thunderstorms. Other than that, temperature's still on the hot side. 97 for the high today, 96 for the high tomorrow. Enjoy the weather. What do you got?
Boy, Michael Rogers weather brought to you by Burley Glass, 1029 Overland in Burley. Hey, the big Oakley Pioneer Days next week. It is going to be so much fun. And some of the Oakley merchants that want you to come on up and share in the fun at Oakley, Clark's for Shopping at 100 East Main in Oakley. My goodness sakes, they're ready to serve you. In Oakley, the hometown grocery store, famous breakfast sausage from Grandma's recipe, either bulk patties or links. Oh, it's made right there at the store. It is so good. And don't forget, they've got a collection of antique pictures and items on display. Come on in and look at history right there in Oakley at Clark's for Shopping on Main in Oakley. Along with Scott Bedke, Speaker of the House, Representative Scott Bedke, a rancher in Oakley, invites you to the best celebration in Idaho, the Oakley Pioneer Days, July 15th through the 19th. Help Oakley celebrate 127 years of family Western traditions. Thank you, Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke. And last but not least, Searles, 106 North Center Street in Oakley, gas and grub and all the goodies. They're open 6 in the morning till 9 at night. Locally grown beef, best burgers and fries you'll find anywhere, along with specialty buns that are baked fresh there every day. Oh, it's good at Searles. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. You just talked with the senator, and you made a really good point that as taxpayers, we shouldn't be forced to be taking care of these children that are coming across the border. And yet we can't take care of the ones that are in our own nation. We're already being taxed to take care of those whose parents aren't taking care of them themselves.
That's right. That's right.
We can't take care of our own.
You know, our nation is honestly, and there's going to be people that are going to criticize me and say that I'm negative, but right now I look at our nation as a kind of an old suit, and there's a couple of threads that are frayed, and somebody started pulling on the threads, and all of a sudden the coats start to falling apart. One of the arms is starting to get loose, and pretty soon the collar's starting to look pretty bad. That's our country right now, because we're letting the loony liberal left destroy it and pull away at the threads and the fabric as to how this country should be under our Constitution. And I, for one, I meant what I said earlier. If I find out that there's going to be a busload or series of buses coming in here to unload some other country's illegal aliens on us, I'm going to stand in front of the bus and I'm going to ask you to stand with me.
I will. And I was very tired. I'm very tired of being taxed to death trying to take care of ours when we can't even take care of our own. Our parents aren't taking care of them, or, you know, I don't mind helping, but I have to take care of mine also. Nobody helped me raise my children and pay for their tenny runners or their clothing or their food or anything else. I did it on my own with my lovely wife. And I am absolutely sickened thinking that other countries are going to put a little 5-year-old girl or boy on a bus and say, head northward, and then we'll follow in a couple of months, and then we'll have citizenship in the United States. It's nothing more than using these kids as pawns. It's not their fault.
Pardon?
They're too little to make that choice.
That's right. That's exactly right. And this president, who I hesitate to use that terminology, wanting us to spend another $3.7 billion, which is not going to close the borders. It's not going to do anything to stymie illegal aliens. It's going to be basically to build more centers to create more people coming in and breaking the law.
Yeah. Let me know when the buses are coming.
I will. I'll call you. Thank you. God bless you for your call. Thank you very much. Stand up, America, for Pete's sakes, and chase the liberal loons with a broom. Get them out of here. Go away. Go live in Siberia or something. This country's too great to let those loons lose our value. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations. Yep, they got the best in tires. Yep, they got the best in front end alignment, shocks and struts. Oh, absolutely the best in brake service. And, of course, all the batteries. Man, the tires for all your driving, all your different kind of driving, they know, and they provide the best of service. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Pauline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Gina, would you talk to me for a minute, or are you way too busy?
No, I can talk.
Okay. You want to hear something that you're just going to shake your head at and say how loony are the left and how absolutely despicable will they become in their pushing of global warming and climate change? I'll tell you a story you won't believe. There is a... Pardon me?
I said I'm ready.
All right. There is a Scottish scientist that came out and publicly made an announcement yesterday that he is extremely concerned that global warming will stop people from having red-haired babies.
What? No.
I don't make things up on this program. He said that red hair is going to be threatened out of existence because of climate change or global warming. This is a Scottish scientist. I'm not making it up.
Okay, so global warming, or AKA climate change, has no effect on human genealogy.
You know, this is what these people are doing. But you know something, and you'll agree with this. You won't laugh and scoff at this. There are enough loons out there in the country that will buy into that, and they'll use that as a point of contention.
I know, because people don't understand the science behind DNA and the human structure, and so that that's laughable for me.
I will tell you that when this story came over the news and I was listening, I was just, and I'm going to be very, very poignant, I was getting up to go to the bathroom, and they said that, and then I didn't have to go to the bathroom anymore. I thought to myself, this is nutso.
You laugh so hard.
I can't believe that we have fallen into this abyss of complete idiocy with these global warming alarmists. Now they've got a Scottish scientist that says red hair might be a part of extinction. Oh, please.
Okay, so hold on a second. Was he like on a television interview, or was this just something that they were reading off the wire?
He made a statement, and he being a Scottish scientist, that he was blaming global warming on a lack of red-haired people, and he said that possibly with global warming and climate change that red hair would go out of existence. And I stopped it, and you've been in my house. I got right in front of the pellet stove and about did a keel over. I couldn't believe it.
The things that some people will believe, the things that some people will pander to the public, thinking, oh, well, you know, the public doesn't know any better. They don't know anything about human DNA. No, it doesn't work that way. Climate change will not affect red hair.
I'll tell you what, and on that note of sensibility with the idiots that believe in global warming, we're going to be back in 6. Don't go away. And I'm Zeb Bell, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, our major sponsors, all 7 locations, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and we present. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Always at your disposal, and I want to guarantee you that they have done an excellent job on their route service, making sure that our garbage is picked up, it's gone, it's out of there. You better believe it. All you have to do to get on the route service is call them, 734-6969. And another thing, too, don't forget, a lot of things going on this summer, whether it's a family picnic, company picnic, or a reunion, whatever it might be. Need some porta potties? They've got them for you. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Also, I want to remind everybody about our dear, dear friend Vicki at Vicky's Country Gardens. What a nice lady. I just really enjoyed having her on the program with the show on Thursdays called Gardening for Idiots, named after me. And it's at 9:12 tomorrow morning right here on Zeb at the Ranch. And Vicky's Country Garden, the sponsor, 185 South, 600 West of Paul. Number to call for all your gardening and landscaping needs, 438-5663. Before we get to our guests, Next, I also want to remind you about Joel Heward, manager-owner of Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. They are there when you need them, and when there's the passing of a loved one, it is just such a traumatic time trying to get everything done, everything taken care of. They are there to serve you. Please, with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Number to call, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. One of my dear, dear friends that we have never shook hands in person, never had an eye-to-eye contact, but he is just absolutely a really good old boy. That's Doug Johnson in Colorado. Good morning, Doug. How are you?
I'm good, Zeb. How are you this morning?
I've made some statements that you, of course, are more subdued than I am, but I think there's a little fight in old DJ, Doug Johnson. I've had enough. I want the borders closed. I do not, will not, and can't support $3.7 billion of my tax money going to build more detainment centers, housing, hire more personnel. No, that's not going to do any good to curb the problem. I want the National Guard on the border with loaded guns and say enough is enough. That's what I want. How do you feel?
Well, I would agree with you, but let me preface this by saying I did catch just a little bit of your interview with Mike Crapo, and was disappointed in some things he said, because in his position he should be addressing what you're saying, and what he did not recognize is that this is entirely part of the Howard and Piven strategy that progressives have planned. This president embraces to overload our system by bringing in so many people. It kills us financially, so they can then come in and say, we have a better solution and replace our capitalist free market system. That is entirely what this is about. And so we can scream and yell all we want, but until we literally get rid of the progressives in Washington, we are going to face this problem. And so I was disappointed he doesn't, at least if he recognizes it, he doesn't admit it. And that's unfortunate.
I agree with you.
We have the National Guard on the borders. The first thing we should do is seal those borders, and we're not doing that.
I agree. I only have, and it's unfortunate, and I'm glad you brought this up, I only have 15 minutes with the senator, which, in fairness to Mike Crapo, he's always been a straightforward and willing to come on the program. There are others of our Idaho contingency that we have to twist arms and get down on bended knee, and I'm not that kind of a person. I'm not going to scuff up my Tony Lamas for anybody. But Mike has always been very gracious to come on the program, so I give him kudos for that. But I don't care if it's Senator Crapo. I don't care if it's somebody from Texas, Oklahoma, Delaware. I am sick and tired of this kowtowing to the Obama administration when every senator and congressman, Doug, should be grabbing up a copy of the Constitution and waving it, flaunting it in Obama's face.
Well, they should. We have 77 documented instances where this president has violated the law, broken the Constitution, outright violated the law. 76 of those were reported before the last one that occurred by a report by Senator Ted Cruz laying out the lawlessness of this president. If breaking the law that many times is not grounds for impeachment proceedings, nothing is. Sarah Palin's new article that just came out, I think it was yesterday, demanding impeachment, she made the statement at the end of her article, I don't know if you saw it, it was on Breitbart.com.
Yes, I did.
If this president doesn't qualify for impeachment, no one does, and she's right, and it's time, and she said we need to get rid of anybody who will not get behind that on either side of the aisle, and she's right, it's time for change in Washington.
Yeah, but
it needs to be radical and fast change.
But you know, Doug, now wait a minute, stop for just a second. You know the reason as to why all the congressmen and senators will hedge on impeachment, and the reason is the numbers, 2014, and they're scared about re-election. They're scared about losing power. They're scared about maybe not being able to retain or gain power. That's it. You don't want to mention impeachment if you're running for office.
Zeb, in my book, The Leadership Secret, and when I do public speaking, the one thing I say is the number one core character trait of somebody who's going to be in leadership and this includes elected politicians, the number one character trait has to be that they are willing to do what's right, regardless of the cost to themselves. If they're not willing to take that stand, they shouldn't be in office.
You know that,
and where we as voters need to take a stand and throw them out.
You're right. You're 100% right. 110. But you know as well as I do, we don't have that commitment. And it's not my fault. It's not your fault. But each and every person that seems to get into the national prominence or voted into a national seat, oh boy, let's pull that security blanket up around our neck a little bit. Oh, let's put it over our eyes so we can't really see what's going on. You know that's the problem, Doug.
Absolutely. Zeb. You and I are just going to have a little festival of agreement here this morning, but you're right, and this is where Americans need to be, really hammering their representatives. We need to be at their offices. We need to be taking, and I have said for a long time, we no longer, as American citizens, deserve a day off. There's no time to rest. Put your hobbies aside. This is a 24/7 task we have to accomplish if we're going to save this nation. We have a very short time to do it, and I fear we are not going to do it because people are too busy doing other things. We have to get our priorities straight, or our children and grandchildren are not going to have the freedoms that we have had.
I said something the first hour, and I think you know me well enough by now that I meant what I said, that if we get the buses up here, and we are on what's called a corridor from Arizona right up here to Idaho, if we get the buses of illegals coming in here, and I hear about it prior to the departure of those individuals from the buses, I am going to organize a major assault on those buses to be stopped in the roadway and turned around, and I'll guarantee you I'll stand behind my word.
Well, I think that's a wise thing to do, and I would hope that people with platforms such as yourself would, in their area of the country, be doing these kind of things. It's very scary what the government is forcing on us. Yesterday I heard an interview with a couple, a retired doctor and his wife in California, who said that their church, their Catholic church members, had called a meeting and that their archdiocese down in Southern California was saying, we want you to house these illegals for up to a month, and we'll cover any out-of-pocket costs you have, but you're not allowed to talk to the media or tell anybody about this. Yeah. They went ahead and talked to me. They said, this is wrong. And the doctor was saying the diseases coming in. He listed diseases that were beyond anything I'd even heard. I mean, I'd heard some pretty bad stuff. This was really unnerving when he listed this stuff. And they were saying that the Catholic Church had embraced this and was going along with it. And I really wasn't surprised because the Catholic Church does buy into the same, and to Catholic listeners, I apologize if I offend you, but the same wrong interpretation of the Bible that says we are to care for everybody in the world. We are not. As Christians, we are to care for other Christians. And so we care for the poor Christians and the widows and the orphans. But regardless of that, without getting into a spiritual tangent, Zeb, what disturbed me is now you have a huge church organization getting involved to aid this effort of bringing these people in. And certainly if somebody needs medical attention or something when they get here, we need to help them, but then we need to turn around and get them right back out of here. And we need to seal that border so they can't come in. Something is wrong when tens upon tens of thousands of children as young as 2 years old are making it all the way across Mexico to our borders, somehow unimpeded. That tells us something's going on, and we are starting to see now the proof that this administration orchestrated this whole thing to collapse our system. It's time for a very strong stand against this government.
Yeah, and here's something else that you and I have talked about, both on this program and off the record. We have a major contingency right now, headed up by many liberal loons and Democrats like Nancy Pelosi and others that basically have planted the seed, and they're using it every day in sound clips for news shows. Oh, well, we don't need borders. Oh, there shouldn't be any borders. Why, we're all friends and neighbors and related in North and South America. We all should go and come as we please. Doug, they've planted the seed, and these loons are winning.
Oh, absolutely. And they do it by tugging on people's heartstrings. You watch them, they sit and they say, well, look at these children, we can't turn them away. The best thing you could do for these children is turn them away. Don't get them in the middle of it. And certainly, America is a better place than come here legally. If you have a sincere, I'm trying to think of the word, if you're truly a refugee, a political refugee from a terrible oppressive state, as some people have been in the past. There are exceptions to those situations, but not everybody who comes to our border, regardless of age or anything else, is a political refugee, and we have to look at that. If you're being tortured and killed by your government, that's one thing, but we don't have that. We might have people coming from impoverished nations that have oppressive governments, but that does not mean they are political refugees.
Absolutely. We've got a caller with a question. Quickly, caller, go ahead, please. Caller, good morning. The alarm clock is going off. Are you there? Gina, are they on the phone or did they hang up? Evidently, they're gone.
They apparently are still there. Hold on just a second.
Okay. We're visiting with Doug Johnson in Colorado. Caller, if you're going to pay attention to the program, you're on the air or we're going to hang up. Go ahead, please.
They hung up.
All right. Well, they had an opportunity. Appreciate that. Call back if you would. We'd like to take your call. Doug, $3.7 billion. I want to go back to this, and I don't mean to beleaguer it, but I'm sick of it as a taxpayer. You're sick of it as a taxpayer. It's not going to do any good. And as I said, I want to see the National Guard called out, because as our Border Patrol right now is changing diapers and feeding pablum and going out and finding new sneakers for these kids, the bad guys are coming in uncounted.
You're absolutely right. And, it started with the president a week or so ago saying he wanted $2 billion. Now it's $3.7 billion. I actually heard somebody else this morning say $3.9 billion. The number keeps moving. And, of course, the other issue here is we don't have that money. People keep talking about, I'll ask the government for money. The politicians say we need money for this, money for that. There is no money. Americans don't want to accept this. We are a bankrupt nation. We spend more than we bring in. We do not have this money. Every time we spend more money, we're going further in debt. The spending needs to stop. And people would say, well, that's cruel, that's mean, this is a humanitarian crisis. Well, it's a crisis created by our own government, by our own administration. It is not an emergency. They created it. They saw it coming. They've been planning on it for months. And the fact is that you need to say no sometimes. And sometimes when things are tough and somebody comes to you for help and you've got nothing, you have to say, I'm sorry, I can't help. There's nothing I can do. And that's where we are at as a nation today. We when you and I were children, Zeb, we were the nation's most wealthy nation, or the world's most wealthy nation, the greatest creditor nation in the world. Today we are the greatest debtor nation in the world. We have more debt than any other nation in the world. And getting out of this does not happen by continuing to go further in debt. It just overloads our system.
You know what? I just had a kind of an epiphany. I just had a lightning strike. Why don't we go ahead and accept the next busload of illegal aliens, but let's load Obama on the bus and head him south?
Well, being that he went to Texas and wasn't willing to go to the border with Governor Rick Perry, I think it tells us where he's at. He's one of the privileged elite few, and this is how the progressives think. They are exempt from all the things you and I must suffer through. And our country wasn't established that way. Our founders saw themselves as equals to the citizens. They were no better, no worse. They were servants of the population who elected them. In fact, before we had to have all the security, you could walk up to the White House and knock on the door and talk to the president when he'd answer it. But today, they have put themselves at such a level, and it's not just Barack Obama. It is all the people in Washington put themselves in a class above us. And this is, once again, what's wrong. I think we should put them on a bus and send them back over the border home with where these other people are from, whether they're from there or not. Excuse me. I just think that it's gotten so far out of control. You couldn't be more right, Zeb, and you're right to be pounding the drum on this, because this is really important and we need to be outraged.
Did you see, this is a different story, and we've only got a few minutes left, but, the most laughable, the most unrespected or disrespected person in politics has got to be a complete imbecile named Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader. He can get away with saying stupid, frivolous, racist comments, and he gets away with it. He claimed he was so angry over the Supreme Court's 5-4 decision in the Hobby Lobby contraception case last week. He forgot when he said something stupid about we're going to get even with those 5 white guys on the Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas is a black man.
Well, now, Zeb, I got to correct you here. Technically, by color of skin, you're right. However, in the progressives' eyes, Clarence Thomas is as white can get because he does not embrace their ideology.
Oh, brother.
Black in their mind unless you embrace their ideology. This is why they didn't recognize Herman Cain. They don't recognize Ben Carson.
Oh, please.
Anybody who's black, Alan West, all these people to them are nothing but white deep in their inner being, because they want to divide America, of course, and keep division, splitting us up so we can't come to unity on anything. And this is sad. What they are saying to people of any minority, not just blacks, but any minority, is you aren't intelligent enough to make your own decisions, so we need to think for you. Thankfully, there are a number of people out there of all different racial makeups and ethnic makeups that are willing to stand up and say, no, I'm going to think for myself, and they do, and they're wonderful, great leaders. Alan West is one of my favorites as an example, and I think we have many of them like that out there. But the left, and Harry Reid is at the forefront of this, do not believe they're black unless they embrace his ideology.
Yeah, and the thing about Harry Reid that upsets me so much, and I took your rebuke of me as a tongue-in-cheek, Harry Reid absolutely is just absolutely overserved his time. We can't seem to get around him. I mean, the Senate is tied in knots of whether he'll allow a vote or he won't allow a vote. This man is a mini Hitler standing there at the podium in the Senate, and I'm going to stand behind that terminology.
No, I think you make a very good point, Zeb, and I think something we as conservatives need to understand is we need to be educating the voters in Nevada who keep him in office. This is Nevada's voters who are doing this. They're really responsible for this because they don't throw him out. The people who keep Nancy Pelosi in California are responsible. They don't recognize who these people are or what they stand for. They just keep voting them back into office, and as a result, they maintain their power. And this is the problem. We really have, I hate to say, as a general rule, as an American people, we have gotten the government we deserve because we have not held our government accountable and made sure we have good people in office. Now, there's a few of us, your listeners, you and I, who stand for what's right, but clearly the majority of Americans don't pay the attention they should, and they are not educated as to what's going on.
Yeah, and whether it's the ISIS over in the Middle East, or whether we have to talk about economic stories, or whether we're going to talk about here a billion, there a billion, what's another 3.7 billion? I mean, my goodness, as you stated very eloquently a few moments ago, we are a broke nation. We are borrowing money just to try to stay afloat, and to say that we need another 3.7 billion for housing and personnel and more jobs to help discern the border crisis. No, we need one thing, and that's a shutdown of the borders, and we don't need 3.7 billion to do it.
That's exactly right. And countries throughout history have at times closed their borders to get things under control. Certainly there is certain types of immigration that's very positive. We all come from other places. Depending on when your family came here, varies in history. It doesn't matter. But if they came here legally, they're just as American whether they came here yesterday and became citizens or came here 100 years ago. But the fact is that we do as a nation have the right to do what other nations do and say, right now we're not doing anything as far as taking in more people. We're closing our borders right now. And this nonsense that the Chamber of Commerce and business puts out that, well, we need these high-tech workers, which, by the way, we're not getting through the southern border. And the fact is we have, and they're speaking most about high technology fields, we have more graduates with degrees in those high-tech fields every year, actually about twice as many graduates from our schools every year in America than there are jobs available by those companies. So they can't tell me they need the foreigners.
Absolutely.
What it is they're preferring to hire them over the American citizens, and we need to get our companies and our country on every level all working for the best interest of America and not the best interest of just their bottom line or just their political future or whatever for their situation.
You know what? Let's just make the commitment and run for public office, you and I. President, vice president, if you want to be president, okay, I'll play second fiddle. We could clean this thing up in a week.
My guess is you would end up as president because I'm sure somebody would take a shot at me. I'd be out of the running pretty fast. They'd probably knock me out. But, sadly, there are good, talented, qualified people out there that could and should run, and they haven't. And and are often, fought so hard against. When you see anybody good out there, they attack them. The perfect example, I'll give two perfect examples. Sarah Palin and Ted Cruz, both are vilified and attacked by the left and by the right. Why? Because they are a threat. They represent what the American people say. The louder the left screams, the louder the establishment Republicans scream, the more we should know these are the people we want in office. When Alan West steps up, they scream. Why? Because he is a threat to them, because he stands for what's true and what's right in America. When those kind of people, Mike Lee stands up, any of these kind of people stand up for what's right, they get vilified and really attacked. And the best example in recent history, I think, is when Ted Cruz did his whole filibuster about defunding Obamacare, and he was belittled and attacked not just by the Democrats, but by the Republicans, and that just shows how wrong they are. Ted Cruz was up there doing what the American people had asked him to do and standing up for America, but our government won't. And we look at people like John Boehner, Speaker of the House, Zeb. He is now bringing a lawsuit against Obama trying to supposedly stop his lawless acts, when the fact is you can't expect the courts to do it when you, John Boehner, have not done your job and used the power of the purse that the Constitution gives the House of Representatives to stop the funding of things that are wrong. He won't do it. If he won't do his job, he can't expect anybody else to do theirs. And this is the consequence we face. So I know I'm on a rant. I know we're almost out of time, but I had to get that out.
Oh, you did it, and did it very eloquently. Doug Johnson, my dear friend from Colorado, God bless you, and we'll talk to you in the very near future. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, sir. A dear friend and great author and author of the Horse Sense blog and many other books, and we appreciate him, Doug Johnson. I got to pay some bills. Yes, sirree. Our weather sponsor first thing in the morning is Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door. They've got all the hardwood, the laminates, the vinyl sheeting, vinyl planks, tiles, carpet, cabinets, everything, all the countertops. They can just beautify your home. Call them at 678-6945, and their slogan is where your home design needs are aisles apart, not miles apart. They can meet or beat any price on flooring. Call them 678-6945, Cheney Flooring and Home Design in Burley. Hey, there's going to be a lot of fun going on in Oakley next week. They just kind of kick up their boot heels and enjoy from the 15th all the way through the 19th under the banner of a flood of blessings. Oakley Pioneer Days, next Tuesday and Wednesday, the four-cylinder car race known as the Bump and Rub. It's going to be good. And the Gymkhana on the Thursday night, rodeo Friday and Saturday night, fireworks, chuck wagon breakfast, entertainment in the park, basketball and volleyball tournaments, great big huge Pioneer Day parade. What are you waiting for? Make plans to be in Oakley for the Oakley Pioneer Days next week. Going to be great. We have in just a moment our guest coming on the air, Dave Bigo, my dear friend, and I'm running just a tad late this morning, which is not unusual for me when I get to rambling. Don't forget, too, Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. They've got all the ATVs. Yes, they do open the showroom door and stand inside and go, holy buckets, you've got all the ATVs. Yes, they do. Can-Am side-by-side, rebates and great financing, and all the accessories, and they've got a fantastic service department. I know that's where I take my ATVs. The best you'll find. Great service department. Brad and the rest of the guys. Where the fun is sold. Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. Holy smokes. Good morning, Dave Bigo, author extraordinaire, blogger extraordinaire, nice guy extraordinaire.
Wow, I don't know what to say. Thank you, Zeb. How are you?
Well, good. That's better than saying goodbye. I'm glad you went along with it. How's the golf game going?
Which hole?
Okay, the par threes. Oh, dear. Hey, listen, in all seriousness, you, of all people, with your great business that extends all across the United States, you go all over the United States, checking on your business, etc. You can feel the pulse of America. You can talk to the common man out there that's trying to make a living underneath this administration, and it just seems like Washington, D.C. is completely removed from common sense and the common man. Are you feeling that there's an animosity growing in this country against this administration, possibly to where everybody might support impeachment?
Well, I think so, but the problem is I don't know that you'd ever get Congress to do it. And, the other part is the Republicans would have to take back the Senate in 2014 to get it done, Zeb. And so I think a lot of these politicians are just sitting on the sideline right now. And it's a shame because what this president is doing and this administration is doing, both internationally with, in the Middle East and then our borders in Mexico is just, I think, a crime.
Well, it is a crime, but now what about it? I mean, this president has provided nothing more than lip service. However, thanks to Valerie Jarrett, his people talking to Perry's people, they are setting up a meeting this afternoon with Governor Rick Perry, but then Obama is going to go to 3 Democratic fundraisers in Dallas, whereupon he could have very easily had first-hand knowledge of the border, which was less than 470 miles away. What's the matter with this president? And we're accepting second best. He's not giving us his best shot.
Well, Zeb, I hate to compare this, but it's just like the labor bosses. All they really care about is themselves and their own agenda. The rest of it's just lip service. And people just need to realize that. And he's going to keep doing that. And, goes to these fundraisers so he can spew his rhetoric and tell people things they want to hear, so that they'll give them money. And, it's the same thing with big labor. It's all lip service. They go and they talk to these people and tell them things they want to hear. They promise them stuff and, we're going to do this and this. And then they walk away and they do what's best for them. And I've seen it firsthand and continue to see it. And I also see it in business with this situation on the border and what's going on behind the scenes in the shadow economy here in the United States. It is really a shame that we have all these people coming across the border, and it's just not kids. Let's not fool ourselves. It's other people, and they're taking jobs where they're being paid less than minimum wage. They're being paid under the table, like an independent contractor. So, there's no taxes taken out. There's no payroll taxes paid. So the government's not getting revenues on it. And businesses that do the right thing and hire legal people and pay accordingly and pay their taxes are being undercut by these people. We've seen it in the past few weeks here. We've lost some business due to people like this. And it's a crime what's going on, and that this president will not address it. And it's all because, he's pandering for votes in November.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Go ahead for Mr. Dave Beagle. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. Do you feel that he won't face up to the border because the whole nation will be watching the greatest blunder this country has ever faced?
That's a good question. Dave, go ahead, please respond to that. Thank you, caller.
Again, he won't face up to it because he's indebted to certain people, and he doesn't really care. His agenda is to, the other side of all this is that, by bringing these people in, it increases our welfare rolls. It puts more, dependents, people in the school system and entitlements, and, it just burdens our national debt even more. And, I've told you this, Zeb, I believe that his ultimate goal is to bring down our economy and then restore it the way he wants to, which is, socialistic.
I agree, totally. Let me ask you this question. I was just on the phone a little bit ago with one of our United States senators, Mike Crapo, and Mike and I have known each other for years and years, and I asked him this question. I said, hey, listen, Mike, why should I, as a taxpayer, pay my taxes and be honest and forthright with my government when at the same time they're going to take another possibly $3.7 billion and use it frivolously to help people that are illegal aliens that may be here for a time and then sent back to their countries, and or possibly the rest of their family is going to come up and live on my dime. I'm sick of it. Why should I pay those tax monies? What are your thoughts about that? I think a lot of taxpayers have had enough.
Well, I think so, too, and I think people are waking up. And I don't know if you saw the news last night. I didn't get to see much of it because I was out of the office all day yesterday, and by the time I got home, it was late. But, the president was in Denver yesterday, and it was very curious that he did not have a welcoming committee, and even the senator and governor that he was going to see didn't even meet him at the airport. They had fundraisers, and they chose to go to those instead of meet with him. And I think this is kind of an indicator of where people are going and how they feel. Because 2008, he rode a tidal wave in Colorado in voting for him, and I think we're seeing this all over the country. And we will continue to see it. But here's the other thing, and it's going to get worse because I've seen this before. And again, I'll compare it to big labor. They make promises, and they tell people they're going to give them all these great things. And we're doing this. We go back to raising the minimum wage and paying salary people overtime, and just the list goes on and on. And we're going to see more of this to garner votes for November.
Yeah, but there's a caveat there. Do you honestly believe that the entirety of the American public is now that dumbed down or naive that they can't see through this Swiss cheese curtain? Are they going to be that gullible that they're going to fall underneath the programs of this administration and vote for Democrats and liberals again?
Well, here's my take on that. They will continue to do what they do, and they'll continue to throw this stuff out there because that's their mode of operation. And unfortunately, there is a certain percent of the population that is so detached from what's going on. They won't pay attention to anything but what these people say, and they'll still get a good percentage of their votes. Now, whether they can, whether enough of them are listening that they'll decide to, move away from the Democratic Party and their socialistic agenda, which isn't working, is a question. But, the conservatives and the Republicans cannot let up. I mean, they have to go on the offensive, and they've got to keep pointing this stuff out because you never say never on these things because it can jump up and bite you.
I agree with that. And Dave, on another side of this issue, I as a father and a grandfather, I am extremely concerned about these illegal aliens coming in here and the masses that they've shown with the diseases, the tuberculosis, the head lice, the scabies, and possibly even leprosy cases, and even polio being reintroduced into our society. And now they're being transported to all points of the compass, and the American public is exposed to this. And on the other side of that coin, we have young parents today that, I don't think I'll vaccinate my children. Good golly, Dave, we're opening up the Pandora's box of having all of these diseases become rampant again.
Well, that's absolutely right. And, again, it's really sad to say that this administration and the Democrats, you look at Harry Reid, they don't care. It all comes to politics, and these people want to stay in power because they look at it, and I've heard them say this: we don't know what we'd do if we had to work out in the private sector. And on top of that, their ideology is just that we should do this for everybody, and these young little kids, we should bring everybody, we should have open borders and do everything for these people. And that doesn't breed responsibility. That just breeds continual entitlement programs, and we're not going to see a change. We, as a country, have to get these people voted out of office, and the conservatives, Republicans have to understand they really have to go on the offensive for November.
Absolutely. I've got to ask you one final thought here this morning before I have to close this segment and go to our weather. But I heard a story this morning, and I'm not picking at Indiana University because I know other universities are being approached on this issue. But I heard a story this morning that the bathrooms at Indiana University now are going to have 3 logos on the doors. One that shows a male figure, one that shows a female figure, and one that shows half male, half female for the transgenders. David, what's going on in Indiana?
Well, I have not seen that one. That is interesting. But it doesn't surprise me. As you know, most universities are pretty liberal. And, despite the fact that Indiana is a predominantly conservative state, it wouldn't surprise me because it just seems like people, because of political correctness, are backing down on everything instead of saying, no, we're going to keep our traditional values.
One final thought, though, Dave, and this is right down your bowling alley as far as having more knowledge than anybody about unions. Yesterday I had a young person on the air that absolutely showed some great respect for this country and for the conservative voice. They're very concerned that labor unions now are making a big push again to demonize some of the larger food chains into voting Democratic and also trying to push the unions into their food chains. It seems like the unions just will not quit, will they?
Well, no, they won't, Zeb. And they're desperate. As I write my blogs, I call them desperate dinosaurs. And they are because they continue to lose membership. And, the only way that they know how to try and regain that membership is through intimidation and pressure and, dirty tactics and misinformation and all that stuff. And we're going to continue to see that get worse also, and especially, again, going towards the election because the unions depend on the Democratic Party to help them stay alive through changes in Washington with regulations at the Department of Labor and National Labor Relations Board. And people have to understand this. This is not people who really want to do what's right for America. These are people who want to do what's right for themselves. They're in survival mode, and as my mom and dad always told me, desperate people do desperate things, and that's what they're doing.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to leave you with this to ponder in your office for the rest of the day, and I couldn't possibly make this stuff up. There was a Scottish scientist, Dave, that came out on the news this morning and said that he is very concerned that red hair is being threatened out of existence because of global warming. Take it for what you will.
Something, Zeb, if you look back at all the things that scientists and some of these college professors and that come up with as they sit behind their desk and ponder this stuff, they have no real-world experience in reality. And, you think about it, back in the 70s, they were talking that we were going to have population expansion so bad that we wouldn't be able to feed people in the 80s. And, and that we were going to run out of fuels and oil and all that. And none of that came true. These people are pessimists. They don't look at the fact that if you give people the opportunity to grow and use their innovativeness and bring up new ideas, those things might happen. But if you let people be innovative and grow and be entrepreneurs, they'll come up with ways to make the world better and to make sure that these things don't happen.
Absolutely. The author of books like The Devil at Our Doorstep and, of course, CEO of a major company here in the United States, I absolutely consider him one of my best friends. Dave Bigo, it's always a pleasure. We've got to get together sometime this summer and crack open that cork on that little bottle, and we will just have a good time. Dave Bigo, God's blessings to you.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and God bless you too, Zeb.
Yeah, you're looking forward to it because I got to buy the bottle. I know your feelings.
Well, I think the interest rate now on it, now it's 2 bottles.
I don't doubt it. Thanks, Dave. God's blessings. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Wonderful man right there, Dave Bigo. Good friend. Thank you so much. Hey, don't forget, it's time for the weather. Oh, man, it's past time for the weather. And the weather's brought to you this hour by Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. Reese Widmeyer, the manager, good old buddy of ours. Quality gear giving you the edge to perform well and enjoy the journey to the great outdoors. Oh, my goodness, they are your outdoor adventure partner. You better believe it at Sportsman's Warehouse. All the hunting and fishing and the archery and camping and boating and the electronics and the knives and the guns and the ammo and everything else. Wow, I love that store. I really, really do. Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. You stop in and see them today. Here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers. Your weather, it's still sunny and hot, but as I talked to you yesterday, looks like you got a chance of thunderboomers over the weekend. Well, that's kind of moved up a little bit now, and it's in the category of slight chance. Now, if this had been wintertime or the fall or anything else like that, when they would tell me a slight chance of anything, there's a slight chance. But this is summertime in the Magic Valley, and your juice, your moisture is coming up from Phoenix, Arizona. 7 times out of 10, you're going to get a thunderstorm starting tonight, going into tomorrow, ending tomorrow night. But they're calling right now for a slight chance of thunderstorms. Other than that, temperature's still on the hot side. 97 for the high today, 96 for the high tomorrow. Enjoy the weather. Doing what you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Sportsman's Warehouse. Hunters, you need to get your gear for the upcoming seasons right now. It's Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. Boulevard. Bit my tongue again. Darn, that hurt. Hey, don't forget Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. And we talked to you about that big sale they had for the 4th of July. Holy cow! They've got all the sofas and tables and chairs and beds and accessories and carpet, everything. Man, at prices you can't afford to pass up. The 2014 Minnecasia #1 Reader's Choice for furniture. Yup. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Located at 459 Oberlin and Burley. All your bedroom sets, floor coverings, dining room sets, living room sets, everything at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Hey, the great big Silver State Stampede is coming. It's coming up this weekend in Elko, Nevada at the Elko County Fairgrounds. Thursday night with a big kickoff party. And boy, do they put on a kickoff party. I'm telling you. And tri-tip dinner, Western Trade Show. It's fun. And then on Friday and Saturday night, PRCA rodeo action right there in Elko, Nevada at the Elko County Fairgrounds. Oldest rodeo in Nevada. The great big Silver State Stampede. Gina.
Zeb.
All right, now we've both got our first names memorized. We're all set to go. You ready?
We're good. Ready.
Okay. I got a story. You think I come up with these crazy stories just to tantalize and basically titillate the audience? Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But now here's one that you won't believe.
Okay.
And I've got factual proof in my hand. I saw this also on television. I was first-hand observer. There was a very obese, fat guy sleeping at a New York Yankee game last week. Okay?
Oh, I've heard this story. Okay, so keep on going.
All right. And anyway, he was tipped over to one side of the chair and basically just making a spectacle out of himself as he snored himself into a happy little haven. Well, ESPN cameras happened to find this guy as they were going around the stadium, and here's this great big blimp of a guy sitting in the chair, snoring and everything else.
Yep.
And they had fun with it. They had a little fun with it, and it's not the first time this has happened. But this guy, who is also a used car salesman, yeah, you can make the analogy yourself.
Yes, that explains the picture.
He decided that he was being defamed, and so he is suing ESPN $10 million.
How can you defame a used car salesman? They defame themselves. Sorry to all of
Oh, my goodness. And send your cards and letters to Gina Jameson. Blah, blah. Well, anyway, this is so ridiculous that he was being defamed. Now, here's the situation.
Right.
I myself many, many times, standing up in the crow's nest at rodeos all across the United States and Canada, have picked a person or persons out of the stands and have used them as focal points to get the crowd really going and that type of thing. And there's been fan cams. This is nothing new. They go in football games, etc. Are we going to let the court system dictate through this frivolous, stupid lawsuit that we can't see anybody in the stands or partake of having fun with anybody in the stands? Is that what it's coming to?
It better not, because that's it. I mean, when I go out and I'm, doing my thing, it's, you pick on, I don't want to say pick on, but, you make a focal point of someone.
Absolutely.
Whether they're, and it's like comedians. What, now comedians can't do their shtick because they're afraid that they're going to offend somebody.
There you go. There you go. Now, if this court case, and I got a picture in my mind's eye of this guy, used car salesman with his white belt and his ankle-high pants and his white shoes, standing there, I want to sue ESPN for $10 million. They defamed me. Oh, for Pete's sakes. And I've also got a picture of his lawyer, some scrawny little guy wearing dark horn-rimmed glasses with greasy hair with a white belt and white shoes on.
The guy is just defaming himself. I mean, the announcers do what they do. And you're in a massive stadium, and you're going to be falling asleep during a baseball game. You're bad, buddy.
Yeah, here's the interesting thing about this.
You're making yourself a focal point in and of itself.
I've been to old Yankee Stadium in the past, now that they've built and renovated a new stadium. But, you don't go to a Yankee game and go to sleep because the ticket prices are not cheap. And so this guy goes there and he makes a spectacle out of himself. I mean, this guy he could have easily taken up 2 seats.
Yeah, I saw the picture, and because I was kind of like, scrolling through and see what was going on the internet, and I came across that, and I looked at the picture and I kind of giggled, because it looked like, he was obviously in a snooze, and it looked like there was a little bit of...
In a snooze? Come on, you're being polite.
Okay, I am kind of trying to be polite, but not really.
He was a lardy Rip Van Winkle.
And did you notice the people around him? There's that little girl and everything, and a little girl and mom seemed to be having a great time, and the guy behind him was, focused on something, but this guy straight up snoozed during a baseball game. So if you're going to sleep during a baseball game, why did you pay the money to go?
Yeah, really. And the thing, I don't begrudge him. If he wants to go to sleep, it's a free country. But then on the other hand...
It's also a free country for you to be picked on because you're sleeping in the stadium.
And when you go to a Major League Baseball game, and you look at the back of the ticket, read what you are accepting when you buy a ticket. And part of that says you will possibly be on television.
Yes.
So his court case is...
Use your name and or likeness for said whatever.
ESPN probably, and the Yankees organization probably would be really smart to get this itch to scratch himself and go away, and maybe offer him a free ticket to another game, or offer him a free pass to some pizza parlor because he looks like he's home there anyway. Just get rid of the guy because it's a frivolous, stupid lawsuit. But if the courts acknowledge this, it could turn every event over on its nose.
I would like to think, and this is my hope, I would like to think that whoever judge actually would just dismiss it and say, are you kidding me? Look at the back of your ticket. This is what it says. Because I'm sure that, the officials with ESPN and whoever will, say, okay, this is what it says on the back of the ticket. Yep. And so, therefore, just by purchasing this ticket, you relinquish your rights, and we have the right to use your likeness for said whatever because you bought this ticket.
Can you see? Honestly, I got to do a commercial.
Yeah.
But picture this in your mind's eye. Close your eyes. Okay. Everybody close your eyes except those that are driving. Just close one eye.
Exactly.
But here comes the court, the day of court. And out in the hallway, here comes the car salesman with his lawyer, and they're both wearing polyester light blue suits with white belts and white shoes and black socks, and they walk in, and they're going to present to the judge a case that he should vote in their favor. He ought to just throw them out of court because of the way they're dressed.
I completely agree, but I think on the basis of this case, I think it should not even be, I don't even think it should have its stay in court. I think that, the judge would just look at this and automatically throw it out.
They ought to put them in the same...
If the justice is sitting in that courtroom, I would automatically throw it out.
Amen. They ought to put them in the same baseball diamond or the same jail cell as the Scottish scientist that said there won't be any more red hair because of global warming.
I still get a giggle out of that.
Oh, man.
Do they honestly believe that we are dumb enough to fall for that?
I'll tell you, folks.
I'm sorry if the Scottish people actually are dumb enough to fall for that, but I don't think that they are.
You know, I go to great lengths to find these stories, so give me some credit. I thought I did a good job on this.
That was actually a great story because I didn't even think of that, and, of course... for all of you redheads out there, all of you gingers, you're soon to become extinct because of climate change.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, by the way, I know somebody that's not going to be extinct. I thought that would be a great segue.
Yeah.
Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Dean and Todd, why, they don't even have red hair. They're going to be over there selling life insurance and taking care of your health insurance, your retirement planning, your employee benefits, for a long time to come. That's right. They're located on Highway 24, right there in Rupert. You stop over and give them a call. Make an appointment. They'll take care of all your insurance needs. They really are professionals. 436-4424. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance in Rupert. Holy cow. Hang on just a second. I've got to take care of this. The Chadwick Sports Grill. Absolutely a great place to go eat at 139 West Main in Burley. Oh, today, what are they going to have? It's going to be a hot dog and sauerkraut sandwich with a choice of potato and super salad for just $8.95. I love that. Hot dogs and sauerkraut sandwiches. Oh, my. No energy shortage this afternoon. It's going to be great at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. I'll be back in 6 minutes. And the moral of the story is, don't go to sleep at a baseball diamond if you're a used car salesman. I don't know what to say. Anyway, good morning, everybody. We talked about that last hour for those of you that are just tuning in and have question marks on your foreheads. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and really they're wonderful people. Along with some of our great advertisers, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call them 734-6969. Don't forget Harris Plumbing NG for all your plumbing needs. Let me tell you that about 3-4 weeks ago, we had a few problems here that needed to be fixed, and I called Nathan Harris. I said, hey, man, can you come up and help us? And, oh, my goodness, that great big, beautiful truck pulled in the yard. One call, that's all. For all your plumbing service needs, excellent service. And I mean that. Underline the word excellent. Reliable, responsible, and extremely professional. I am impressed. Number to call, Harris Plumbing NG, 431-8633. That number again, 431-8633. On the phone with me right now, and I hope he's out of bed, dressed, and ready to meet the world for the rest of the day. Alki Mariluch, down there in Elko, Nevada. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing today?
Not too bad. I think my wife woke everybody up at your house, didn't she?
My alarm went off just before she called.
Yeah, we heard the fluffing of the pillow. Hey, Alki, what in the world is going on down in Elko, Nevada this weekend? Somebody told me you're going to have a great big happening.
We are. The Silver State Stampede starts tomorrow with the kickoff party and the Old West bronc riding, and then on some mutton busting, and on Friday and Saturday we'll have a regular PRCA rodeo. We'll still have Old West bronc riding and mutton busting, and we're ramped up and ready to go.
Holy cow! I haven't even signed a contract with you. You want me to show up?
Well, I'm hoping you do, because I sure don't want to have to try to announce it.
Okay. Hey, tell us a little bit, break it down just a little bit. What's going to happen tomorrow night along with some of the arena festivities? I mean, you have the oldest rodeo in the state of Nevada, and you've been there for every one of them, haven't you, Alki?
Well, about the last 55 of them.
Okay.
But we start tomorrow at 4 o'clock. The gates open, and we'll have there's a barbecue, and then Calcutta. They're going to Calcutta, all the Old West bronc riders, and we'll run some sheep riding, and then the Old West bronc riding, the first go-around, will all go on tomorrow. And then Friday and Saturday, the gates will open again at 4, and they'll start mutton busting around 5 or so, or 6. And then the rodeo right after.
All right, now let's talk a little bit, Alki. A lot of people are saying Old West bronc riding. What the heck is that? Explain it a little bit.
Well, it's pretty much ordinary ranch cowboys, and with their stock saddles, it's the ones they cowboy on every day, and they can come out, they can hang on with 2 hands, they can take their slicker or their hat, they can fan the horses, and it's just real wild. It's like they did 100 years ago before they really specialized with saddle bronc riding.
Absolutely. Now, the wilder the better, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. We had one guy last year, I think it was, actually stepped out of the stirrup, stood on one side of the horse for 2 or 3 jumps, then climbed back on. He did it on purpose, and he looks at the judges while this is going on. He's a pretty good hand.
Yeah, but then wait a minute. I got to tell you, I think the craziest, wildest ride I ever saw in that Old West bronc riding was by Jess Jones when he came out backwards.
Oh yeah, that was pretty wild.
Well, now you're also going to have tomorrow night a great big tri-tip dinner, aren't you?
Yeah, that's what's the main thing on the menu, and so that there's the caterer. He's pretty good. He's been doing this for a long time. He makes some fabulous dinners, and it's a pretty popular event.
Well, I know we've got a lot of people coming down from this area to the oldest rodeo in Nevada, the Silver State Stampede. But one thing that I think stands out down there on your rodeo grounds at the Elko County Fairgrounds is that Western Trade Show. I mean, if they're into anything cowboy or Old West, it's going to be at that trade show. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there's probably going to be... they have a whole bunch of vendors come in, and you can get leather products, art products, or the lady who is the granddaughter of G.S. Garcia, the famous silversmith that was around here in around 1900. She was even here last year, and so you can get silver, any kind of tack you need for your horses. It's pretty popular, too.
Absolutely. Now, okay, that's going to be tomorrow on Thursday, the kickoff. But then, on Friday and Saturday, the Bar T Rodeo Company, Jeff and Wendy Flitton, are bringing in national finals, bucking horses and bulls for the PRCA rodeo action. Okay, Alki, tell us about that.
Well, they are. In fact, when I was coming to work this morning, I noticed that they'd showed up this morning, so the stock's already here, and they have some great stock. Last year, every one of their horses, I think, was national finals quality stock. I don't know if it had all been there, but everything they bring is really good.
Absolutely. Now, what about tickets, Alki, for the rodeo? How do people obtain tickets?
Well, you can get them at the gate. You can pay when you come in, or there's a toll-free number, I think it is, to get tickets, and I don't have that number with me.
Okay.
So I can't really tell you what the number is.
Well, it'll probably be on the website, wouldn't it, Alki, which is the SilverStateStampede.com?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, on the website. I always forget about that. I'm a little bit backwards on the technology.
No, you're not, because I'm at the bottom rung of the ladder, Elkie. You got to go underneath me, and I don't think you can. Hey, listen, also, along with the rodeo action every night, you're going to have something that has really taken off and become a fixture there at Elko, and that's the Ring of Fear. Tell us about that.
Well, the Ring of Fear, it's a little arena set up right in front of the grandstand where everybody gets a good seat, and they put 6 circles out on the ground, and they get 6 people can sign up each night to stand in each circle, and they let out a Mexican fighting type bull, and the last guy to stay in the circle wins the money, all the money. And it's an exciting event, and I remember when it first started, it would end pretty fast because most of the guys would just take off. But now they've got some guys that they stand in there and take a beating. They pretty much have to be knocked out of the circle.
Okay.
So the crowd just loves that.
All right. Now, here's something else, too. If people want to go to Elko and dance, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to dance, aren't you?
Yeah, they'll have on Thursday night, I think we'll just have a DJ after the bronc riding's over. But on Friday and Saturday night, we'll have a live band over there at the end of the grandstands, and it will probably go until the wee hours of the morning if people want to stick around for that.
I saw my neighbor last night. I was out on my four-wheeler just coming back up to the house after I went down to check on something, and my neighbor, Calvin Perkins, I believe he's bringing down some of those electric bulls to ride.
That's right. They were just talking about that at one of our board meetings the other night, that they were going to have the mechanical bull there, and that thing keeps busy all night long too.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the program, Alki, because it's going to be a great big event. I know a lot of people are going to be heading down from this area to go to Elko, Nevada, and man, that's where the cowboy life still lives. I mean, you guys are really old buckaroos, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. It's still, we have a lot of mining and other things going on here, but there's still a pretty big cowboy base around here. So. Okay,
well, we're very thankful that you came on our program this morning. Alki Mariluch from Elko, Nevada, talking about Nevada's oldest rodeo, the Silver State Stampede. Well, I'm going to throw some clothes in the pick-em-up truck, and I'll see you down there tomorrow afternoon.
All right, we're looking forward to seeing you.
All right, take care, Alki.
You bring down, too.
All right, thanks an awful lot. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon.
All right.
See you later. Thank you. I tell you what, I look forward to that. And I've known Alki and his family for years and years. Boy, I bet you I've known them for 40 years. And quite an established family in that area. And so we're looking forward to going down to the Silver State Stampede in Elko, Nevada tomorrow through the rest of the weekend. Going to be ripping lot of fun, let me tell you that. Okay, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And we'll be visiting with Gina here in just a minute. I got another little story for her. Hey, don't forget, sugar beet growers, may I have your attention. Introducing Preaxor from BASF, the newest form of chemistry for sugar beets to fight disease and potentially increase yield and sugar content of your sugar beets. Preaxor contains headline and a new compound, Xemium, that also provides excellent control of powdery mildew. Like I said, with the application of BASF's Preaxor, 45 to 60 days prior to harvest, you have the potential of higher yields and more sugar content in your sugar beets. So contact your local ag chem supplier today, or call my buddy BASF's Ron Ellis at 431-6776 or Tim Perry at 844-0682. BASF's Preaxor for your better sugar beets. Good morning, caller.
Hey, earlier, Zeb, I was on the phone and then I had an emergency call come through, so I wasn't able to talk to Doug Johnson. And you guys were talking about, well, briefly, you were talking about the issue down on the border, and And sometimes you hear Obama and liberals say that borders really don't work. There's really no way to secure the border. And I got 2 points to prove that wrong. If that's the case, then why is there a fence around the White House? And then secondly, I've never been to Israel, but I have studied their border fences. And I don't know how tall their fences are, but between each fence, there's 20 foot of sand. And so if anybody's been through there, they'll know it.
Yeah.
And so there is no illegal border crossing in Israel, because you know as well as I do that could never work. Israel would no longer exist.
The thing is, Randy,
borders do work when you decide to make them work.
Absolutely. You know, Randy, I'll say this, and there will be those in the audience that will be offended by this statement, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway because I feel it's the truth. If our country was Israel, we would not have a border problem as we have today.
Absolutely not. As you see, it's just a crock. And then one of the things about the federal government is they have all these subcontractors that work for the federal government, and they're in cahoots with them. And the subcontractors, some of these private contractors are not necessarily on the up and up with this other stuff. You know, some of this stuff is, you know, when we paid, what was it, $400 for a hammer or whatever it was years ago.
Yeah.
You see, you understand.
Absolutely.
Those kinds of things cannot continue. When we have unethical behavior, it crushes everything, including the free market capitalist system that it really works well when people are operating in an ethical behavior.
I am, like I said the other day, calling for the impeachment and possibly even the detention of this president and this administration as being a criminal and criminals against our Constitution and our country. That's how strongly I dislike this man.
Well, you know, like I say, he's an anarchist, a communist, and there's no question about it. You can call him lots of things, but he is a dangerous man, and he's going to continue to push until we stop him. And I just don't know how that is going to occur, whether or not it's a leader inspiring the people to wake up, or it's just like Marietta, California, or the militia going there, wherever, even down to the border. You know as well as I do, Zeb, these people are taking things in their own hands.
That's right.
And as long as they remain strong and non-aggressive, it will work. But if blood is shed between whoever and the government and the militia, that could be a very interesting precedent that would be set.
You know, I don't want to think about any violent confrontations. I don't want to think about American citizens having to go against their government. But let's face it, and let's be really, really poignantly honest. How much more can we, the citizenry, take of a man that is against our Constitution, against our moral values that this country was founded on, against the principles of freedom, and against the principles of trying to be successful and lead yourself to the American dream? How much more can the American public take before they say enough is enough?
Well, I don't know, and it's just like I say, every day when I go out here amongst them, and I thank God they hire me to do things, I cannot thank them enough, and they appreciate and they trust me enough to do so. And I say to myself, these men and women out here that are creating business, and every day they go on and they raise their families and they keep their businesses going, and they're even building new buildings and houses and expanding, hiring more people, and they're thinking positive about the future in spite of what is being dealt to them by this administration. Can you imagine if these people weren't getting pelted by the gauntlet of this administration, that how much more we could do and hire more people and pay them a wage and not being forced to raise the minimum wage some artificial you know what.
Yeah, I agree. Randy, thank you again for your call. God bless, man. Thanks so much. Calls are welcome. I still have about 6 minutes left in this segment, and appreciate it. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to talk about Chicago on the 4th of July in just a moment, and how devastating, dangerous, and deadly it was. Stand by for that. The Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo. Oh, those people up there to the north of me, they know how to have fun, and they're going to prove it to you. Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo, they're going to start on July the 12th, actually at 6 p.m. that night, with a big, heavy, muscle-type tractor and truck pull. The big boys are in town. And then on July 19th, they're going to have a ranch rodeo. That is going to be really fun. Team branding, team doctoring, working ranch horse, trailer loading, snubbed up bronc riding. Oh, man, it's going to be ripping good. And then on the 21st all the way through the 27th, they're going to have all kinds of good, fun things at the Lincoln County Fair and Rodeo for 2014. Be there. It's going to be a lot of fun in Lincoln County. Gina, I'm going to ask you to get on this segment, if you would. Are you there?
Yep.
This is a serious segment. I was doing some research over this last 4th of July weekend and listened to some of the statistics that happened during the Independence Day celebrations in Chicago.
Okay.
82. Now picture this in your mind. 82 people were shot. 14 are dead. And one of the people that perpetrated this crime against all these other people and was responsible for some of the people getting shot and some of the people dying was a person that had been arrested 21 times and put back out on the streets. What does that tell you about the law and the court system and the judges and the lawyers in Chicago, Illinois?
They're failing and they're corrupt, and they should have not let this person out.
21 times, Gina.
21 times. And let me guess, all of these violent crimes?
Yeah, yes, all violent crimes. I'm sorry, I had a little cutout there and I didn't hear you.
No.
But can you imagine, here is one of the nation's largest cities, and I have been to Chicago uncountable times. I've been down on State Street, I've been over to the lake, I've been to the Museum of Science and Industry, I've been to the Cubs games, I've been all over Chicago. But now Chicago has turned into a war zone in, and I'll say it because it's the truth, the black neighborhoods. Nobody goes in there or out of there, including the police, because they're scared to. It has turned into a criminal war zone. But in one day, 82 people shot, 14 dead, and one of the perpetrators had been arrested 21 times. Why is this man even thinking about seeing the outside on the sidewalk?
He shouldn't have even he shouldn't. And I think probably on the 4th of July, you know, they obviously got away with it because everybody just thought that they were firecrackers.
You know, I don't know. This world, it's not guns.
Wrong. It's sick and wrong.
It's not the ownership of guns. It's the people, the perpetration of these people thinking they're above the law. It's a not responsible attitude. It's people that don't have any caring. You know what it really is, and you might not agree with this, but I'm going to say it blatantly. We've got away from the principles of the Bible and God, and that's why we're having all these problems.
Amen. We are a country anymore of no morals. Nobody has any morals. It really doesn't. I saw a post, and basically it was, you know, it doesn't matter what religion you are. If you don't have morals, you're not worth the grit.
I agree.
And then it's true. God, the higher power, whatever, nobody believes in it anymore. And so, therefore, nobody has any morals to stand up and do what's right.
But to go down a street and just, and groups of 5 and 6 blacks to a car, and they see somebody walking down the street, and they say something, and the guy on the street says something back, and then they just shoot him. No value of human life? I mean, what is going on in our society? Where is the responsibility? Where is the punishment?
There is no value to human life. We are a number. That's it.
Anyway, I've got to turn it back over to you, but when I heard those figures of 82 people shot, 14 dead, just in one segment, one area of Chicago, it just sickened me.
One day.
It sickened me. All right, I'll turn it back over to you. I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. We have a lovely lady on the phone with us in a couple of minutes, Kathy Riesenwitz, talking about one of the real villains in this country, the EPA. Don't go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the last half hour of our program this morning. And I want to mention to you, we've got some more great Oakley merchants that are saying, come on up to Oakley for Oakley Pioneer Days next week. Going to be a lot of fun. Like Smith's Cafe at 135 East Main in Oakley, open Monday through Saturday, 6:30 in the morning till 1 p.m. And they make their third-pound burger that is delicious, and onion rings to die for. Made right there at the cafe. And they've got beer and pop and lemonade and iced tea and everything. Oh, it's great. It's Smith's Cafe on Main in Oakley. And the Oakley Valley Stone, 204 West Main in Oakley. Don't forget, wishing the people of Oakley and around the area a happy 127-year anniversary. When you're looking for stone for a new fireplace, headstone for a loved one, landscaping, boulders, whatever, look no further than Oakley Stone, and they're located at 204 West Main Street in Oakley. Really good folks. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and we have with us, let me make sure I get everything just right, a editor at Young Voices and a columnist at townhall.com. I hope I say her name right. She will probably correct me. Kathy Riesenwitz, is that right?
Almost. Riesenwitz. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, Kathy, I thought I hit a home run, but it's Riesenwitz. I apologize.
No problem.
All right. Listen, Kathy, you are going to be talking about a subject this morning that I am absolutely incensed about, and it's an organization called the Environmental Protection Agency. They have taken, they weren't given, they have taken powers that are not theirs. They have turned into a Gestapo brown shirt unit, and they're trying to get even more power to go after people they want to find. Tell us a little bit about the EPA.
So the EPA has decided that if they think that a company is violating its rules, that they can actually garnish the wages of people who work at that company without ever proving that they've done anything wrong.
Now, wait a minute. If they think that this person or persons has done something wrong, they think they are guilty, they're going to go after them and try to garnish their wages. Now, why aren't we demanding of our congressmen and our senators to put thumbs down on the forehead of the EPA and tell them to crawl off into the corner like a good rat ought to?
That's exactly what I encourage all of your listeners to do. The rules are going to take effect September 2nd unless the agency receives enough adverse public comments by August 1st. So I definitely encourage everyone, call your representatives, say this is completely and totally unacceptable. There is absolutely no reason. I mean, environmental regulations, you can say what you want about them, but there's nothing so time sensitive that people need to be seeing their wages taken out of their paychecks to make sure that we comply with rules that a lot of us wouldn't even agree with in the first place.
Okay, now let's break this down slowly, Kathy, because I had on my program roughly about 3 weeks ago Andy Johnson from Fort Bridger, Wyoming, that built a little bit of a farm pond. It was a pond for his kids to enjoy some of the fish. It was a pond for his livestock. It was a pond for the wildlife. He had jumped through all the hoops of the state of Wyoming and got all the permits and everything, but the EPA walked in there and said they were going to fine him $75,000 per day if he didn't dismantle it and take it apart, and he told them to stick it in their ear. He's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. I wished we had a whole country full of Andy Johnsons.
And that's the thing about Andy Johnson, is he's a hero, and this ruling, this not even a ruling, this taking would mean that while he's fighting for his freedom, his wages could get garnished. Now, that is completely and totally unacceptable.
How do we stop this, though? I mean, you're saying this morning that we should all sit down and write a letter to our congressmen and senators, but therein lies a problem also, Kathy, is that I'm beginning to think that the backbone and the spine, and there's other words I could use, but I can't on the radio, of our senators and congressmen is lacking, and they won't stand up for us.
Well, I would definitely never disagree with you there. However, there have been some representatives who have made statements about how this is not okay. There's a Fox News story about it. It lists their names. In addition, the Heritage Foundation has released a statement saying this is completely unacceptable. So I wouldn't say this is a done deal necessarily. I do think that people are paying attention. There was another instance of legislators paying attention to public outcry. I don't know if you're familiar with the fight against Uber and Lyft in Virginia, where I live in D.C., so Virginia's close by. Virginia banned Uber and Lyft. They sent cease and desist letters. They started pulling over their drivers, and they fined them to protect the taxi monopoly. And people got so mad, just tweeting and contacting the representatives, that the ban has been lifted.
When it comes to fining someone or threatening with their punkish attitude and their thug attitude like they're mafia, like they did with Andy Johnson at $75,000 per day, there's not anybody except somebody like Donald Trump that could sit back and sneer at a $75,000 per day fine. They're just coming in as punks and thugs, and they're going to close down everything, and they're going to destroy human lives. What alternative do we have? How do we get this agency shut down and diminished in power?
Well, I definitely have reservations about the Tea Party for a lot of reasons, but I will say I think that a lot of this thuggishness comes from the fact that agencies like the EPA are similarly and totally captured by incumbent businesses. The EPA released some regulations, I believe it was last year, for new coal-fired power plants. And so they released these regulations to the public for comment, and it turns out no new coal-fired power plants would be able to be created with these regulations in place. So either the EPA is completely and totally incompetent, which may be. There are very few scientists looking at the EPA, and even if they were actually trained in science, they don't know anything about the industries that they're regulating because they've never worked in them. Or if they have, the problems there are pretty obvious. Or this is clearly a cronyist example of incumbent coal-fired power plants not wanting any competition, and so they're going to write regulations that prohibit new power plants from being built. And so what's exciting about the Tea Party is that you have some politicians, some candidates, who for the first time really ever are standing up against crony capitalism and standing up for Americans so that new businesses can come in and innovate and we can all be more prosperous. A good example of this is Justin Amash, who is so anti-crony capitalism that the Chamber of Commerce in his state is backing his opponent, even though he's an incumbent.
You know, I'm sitting here and you're mad about the EPA. I'm mad about the EPA. Everybody ought to be absolutely livid about the EPA. And the first three words of our Constitution should come in play. We, the people, we should be outraged enough that we're going to look these people in the eye if they come on our property, and we're going to say, you have 5 seconds to slam the door, start the engine, and make rubber in my yard here because I'm going to go get a gun and run you off my property. I understand. I made a comment 2 weeks ago, Kathy, about possibly going after the EPA and kind of poking your finger in their eye. Everybody, I said, should build a little bit of a fish pond in their backyard or create a little bit of a pond and float a little boat in it or whatever and see if the EPA is going to come on your property and cause you problems. But the problem is with that statement, they will. That's the kind of thuggery that they like.
Well, I do think that it's an issue of, it's a rare instance and a rare person that an individual comes up against the EPA. The EPA, when they do find someone to go after, they go after them very hard. I do think that there should be more of a popular resistance against this kind of thuggery, because it's not only is it just offensive that I don't really own my land if I can't do what I want to improve it without some bureaucrat saying yes and me paying a lot of money to have someone come out and look and, say that this is okay. I mean, kind of one of the founding principles of the United States of America is supposed to be respect for private property. One of the only possible justifications for a government is to protect private property. So, all that, is problematic, But yeah, I mean, I think that if people did kind of wake up and realize that we don't own what we can't do what we want with, then the EPA could possibly back off a little bit, hopefully.
Well, Kathy, out here in the West, we rely on water as our lifeblood for irrigation for all the crops that we raise and all the pastures, all the hay, everything. Water is our lifeblood. And with every little tributary that goes into irrigation systems, you're going to have certain poolings of water or little pondings of water, whatever it might be. And the EPA wants to regulate and basically control everything. There is no way in the world agriculture is going to survive if the EPA has its way.
So that's a huge problem, and I think in instances like that, we've got to look at cost versus benefits. I think we all want to live in a country where the air is clean and that's sustainably built, but we all also want to have access to water and we need industries that are able to improve and thrive. And so, this is something that we really need to pay a lot of attention to.
What do you suggest? I know that we talked about this in the beginning, but if the EPA is, and I find this a little frivolous, I find that if they make an announcement, and I'm going to read this here, it says, the notice went on to say that the EPA had fast-tracked the new rule, enabling it to take effect on September 2nd, unless the agency receives enough adverse public comments by August 1st. Now, my comment to you is the IRS did everything they could to be illegal and illicit, and they're having their feet held to the fire now, but then all of a sudden they lost all the emails. Will the EPA say they lost all these public comments and nobody even bothered to comment and they're going to railroad this thing through?
I wouldn't comment to the EPA. I mean, I would, but I would also comment publicly. I would tweet about it. I would Facebook about it. I would email your congressman. I would call your congressman, and then I would make that comment public as well. Because absolutely, we cannot trust any government agency to be fair, transparent, or honest about its communications with other departments, within those departments, and with the public.
All right, here's what I'm going to do, and tell me if you can think of any additions to this. Every day from now on, and I'm highlighting this, I am going to tell people to write letters to their senators and congressmen demanding that they thwart the EPA with their new rule of possible wage garnishment for people that they want to fine. And I'm going to do all I can here. And I would ask you and others of your ilk to get on various other radio stations and ask to go on those stations and tell everybody that we've got to stop this brown-shirted Gestapo attitude with the EPA or we're all doomed.
Absolutely, and every time you're aware of someone making a statement, writing a letter, also correct those. Post them on your Facebook page and post them on your website so that people know that people are angry about it and so that the EPA can't claim that no one cares.
Kathy, I'm going to say it right, Reisenwitz, right?
Perfect.
All right. God bless you for being on the program, and really contact me back if you hear any information that is worse than what we talked about this morning, or you find out something about the letters sent or some of the ramifications against the EPA. Call me and come back on the program, would you?
I would love to. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Folks, I'm telling you right now, send your letters and basically tell your congressmen and senators No, you've had enough of the EPA and you expect them. You're not asking them. You're telling them to basically stick their finger in the eye of the EPA and say enough is enough. We've had enough of their thuggery and their mafia attitude. I just hate these people. Now, somebody's out there in radio land going to say, oh, you can't say the word hate. Yes, I do. I hate what they've done to America, and I hate what they've done to private citizens. The EPA should be dismantled and thrown away. Scaro's Meats over at 3:30, and they'll probably come after me on this program now, too, I'm sure. That's the kind of punks that they are. Scaro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. They've been a local custom meat processor for over 20 years, and everything they sell is guaranteed. Oh, the wonderful, delicious, absolutely scrumptious marinated tri-tips for any occasion. Call them at 324-7657. Absolutely, they're selling taste one bite at a time. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers. Your weather, it's still sunny and hot, but as I talked to you yesterday, looks like you got a chance of thunderboomers over the weekend. Well, that's kind of moved up a little bit now, and it's in the category of slight chance. Now, if this had been wintertime or the fall or anything else like that, when they would tell me a slight chance of anything, there's a slight chance. This is summertime in the Magic Valley, and your juice, your moisture is coming up from Phoenix, Arizona. 7 times out of 10, you're going to get a thunderstorm starting tonight, going into tomorrow, ending tomorrow night. But they're calling right now for a slight chance of thunderstorms. Other than that, temperature's still on the hot side. 97 for the high today, 96 for the high tomorrow. Enjoy the weather. Doing whether you got.
There you go, Michael. Thank you. Brought to you by Scaro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Selling taste, one bite at a time. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, an old Texan I used to know down there, he had a saying, trespassers will be shot or will be prosecuted, the survivors will be shot.
You know, Al, this is such a serious situation. You remember, you listened when I had Andy Johnson on the air from Wyoming, and now the EPA says that they want to garnish the wages of individuals not who have been through the court system and proven that they violated the rules, who have been accused of violating the rules.
No, I don't think they can make it stick because it takes a court of law to take garnished wages.
Yeah, but wait a minute. You're being a little ambiguous there because things that we didn't think they could do in government right now they're doing, Al, so I don't trust them at all.
Because you got a bunch of liberal judges that don't give a damn about the law and they're not following it.
I agree with that. But the EPA itself has never had any Congress-appointed laws. They have no validity, and we're listening to them.
Let's just show them that, like I did to animal rights. You got two choices, the killing stick or the knife. Which do you want?
You know, it's to the point, Al, honestly, that this Obama administration is absolutely under the table backing and trying to promote anything that the EPA wants. And we've got to stand up. I mean, I'm telling people right now, there won't be a Burley, Idaho. There won't be an Oakley. There won't be a Twin Falls. There won't be any of rural Idaho if we let the EPA have their controls.
All right, have a good one.
God bless you, man. Thanks. I'm just livid about this, and we sit back like a flock of sheep, and we go, bah, and we just take what they hand us. How dare they? The Environmental Protection Agency quietly claiming that it has the authority to unilaterally garnish the wages of individuals who have been accused of violating its rules. And we're sitting back and saying, oh yeah, massa, okay, massa, whatever you say, massa. No. It's time to stand up and tell them no. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, are you still there by your microphone? I have a concern, a real valid concern.
I'm here.
All right. Remember earlier I was talking to Bigo about his Indiana University? Did you hear that?
Yes.
Where the bathrooms now have 3 logos?
Yes.
And one logo shows a male figure, one logo shows a female figure, and one logo shows half male, half female figure for the transgenders. Here's my worry and my concern.
Okay.
And it goes to all janitors across the United States. By the time they figure out which one they are, there's going to be a puddle on the floor and it's going to cause a mess.
At that point in time, I would probably just run into one. I wouldn't care, but, I don't understand why they have to have three.
The confusion factor, I've got a picture of this running up to the door, a male dressed as a woman and stomping his feet going, let's see, male, female, transgender. I don't know what to do. And then the janitors come into play, and I feel sorry for the janitors all across America.
Was this like a commercial or something that played reel-to-reel in your brain?
No, my brain doesn't work on reel-to-reel. I don't know what it works on, like a mouse with a treadmill or something, but I just, you know me, I get these weird thoughts in my mind, and I'm worried about the janitors of America having to use their mops all the time.
We need to make a video of that. That would be a funny, funny video.
We could.
Yeah,
we could.
I would need to do that. Yeah, seriously.
But isn't America just absolutely going nutso? This is crazy.
I think the decay and decline of morality in our country is just insane.
We got a fat slob, and that's what he is, suing a major network for $10 million because he fell asleep at a Yankees game.
Yeah,
we've got a Scottish scientist that says there aren't going to be any more red-haired people because of global warming.
Sorry, gingers are dying off.
We've got Indiana University putting 3 logos on the bathroom door that's going to cause confusion and a piddle on the floor. I mean, this world's going to heck.
You just pretty much summed everything up right there.
I can't. How could I make this stuff up?
Yeah, honestly, the stuff is so ridiculous, you can't make it up. And unfortunately, this stuff is fact. It's just fact.
I mean, I sit here every day, and I got a call from a lady yesterday. She says, where do you get all this stuff? And I said, lady, if you read and research, it gets crazier than that.
Oh, it really does, too. There's some wild things going on out there in the world, and just some of the news topics, like what you so aptly brought up today about gingers under the threat of being extinct, I think is absolutely ludicrous. And honestly, you can't make that stuff up.
You can't make that stuff up.
Apparently, a Scottish scientist is so determined that gingers are going to become extinct.
But the problem is, in our society today, and I know you're going to agree with this, if you stand outside the radio station and you say something like, at 4:30 this afternoon, little purple people are going to come down and they're going to steal the entire campus of CSI, somebody out there is going to buy into that.
Yeah, somebody will believe it because they heard it on the air.
Absolutely.
That must be true.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, I can't make this stuff up. I wished I could write it for a Hollywood script. James Herson would come back on the air and he'd say, Zeb, you sold $1 million right there. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. They've got the best tire value and the free peace of mind tire protection and the free lifetime tire and mileage care. They really care about your safe driving. They've got all the different tires, all the different tread designs for your cars, your pickups, your SUVs, and the best in brake service, the best in front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. And you know what? They make it easy for you to take care of your vehicle with the credit plans that are available right there at all 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Yep, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Well, as Gina knows, on Thursdays, it is literally a Chinese fire drill. We got to hurry to get everything done, and tomorrow is no exception. We've got the Chamber of Commerce. We've got Vicky with her gardening program. We've got Dog Nation. We've got Rita Ramsey coming on. We've got Starving to Death. We've got Lee's Furniture Call-In, and we've got Cassia County School Systems. Hey, by the way, that is going to be a lot of fun tomorrow, and something very interesting because we have the Cassia County School nurse coming on the program. Kyle Hodges, excellent lady, very, very articulate and smart, and she's going to be talking about the diseases that are coming across our borders. And then we're going to visit with Cheney Flooring, and last but not least, we have a couple in Utah, the Jones family. They're going to be coming on our program, and they're going to be talking about preparedness in your home, whether it's food, whether it's the clothing, whether it's the environmental getting ready in case there's a doomsday or something. They're going to talk about preparedness tomorrow at 10:30, so don't miss that. Woo! Busy day, hot day. How hot is it supposed to get today, Gina? What did he say, 97 degrees?
Well, it's supposed to be 97 degrees, but in the low-lying areas, say like Hagerman and places like that, it's going to see triple digits again. And I would also expect that it's going to be pretty dang muggy coming this afternoon.
Yeah, you know, anytime you got a threat of a thunder bumper, that it gets humid and hot. Drink a lot of water if you're outside working. I know yesterday I took that bottle of water and poured it over my head, and we had to fix some fence that my steers decided was in the wrong place and it wasn't comfortable for them, so they changed it. And so it gets warm out there, ladies and gentlemen.
It does. And so if you're going to be doing any yard work, don't overextend yourself. Just kind of take it easy. And if you feel like you're getting overheated, you probably are. Just stop, take a rest, and then continue on.
Okay, it gives you a good excuse to go get in the geezer chair, put your feet up, have an iced tea, sweetened or unsweetened, and enjoy the day.
Sounds perfect.
All right. God bless, Gina. Thanks so much for everything. Appreciate it. Had a great program today. Thank you. And tune in tomorrow at 8:06. Zeb at the Ranch right here, streaming live on the net all over the world, zebbell.com, and locally right here at KBAR 1230 AM. And we'll be back tomorrow where we always say the way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless you and your family. See you tomorrow morning.